Here.
Alder Bernstein.
Here.
Alder DePula.
Here.
Mayor O'Connor.
Here. Alders Moore and Holmquist
Sorry, they are excused.
are excused. That's okay. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the minutes of the September 18th and 21st meetings?
Motion to approve?
I'll second.
Any corrections or additions?
One small correction, I don't think Hotecker was interim director at that point. So probably in front of
Oh, is that in the list of who's present?
Yeah.
Okay. And one other thing, Aline, in the September 18th meeting, item G2D, it looks like it's not complete. It kind of stops mid-sentence, I think. A preliminary concept and dollar amount at the very end of that.
I wonder if it pulled the wrong one when I saved it.
Should we table it and do it next time?
I think you'd say approved as corrected and allow the clerk to make that edit if you were comfortable doing that.
That's fine. Yeah.
Do we need a motion to do that?
I would recommend a motion to approve as corrected.
Okay.
I move to approve the minutes as suggested, as corrected.
I'll second that.
We already have a motion.
Yeah, we already have a motion, so this is a
This is an amendment.
amendment, right? Okay, so any further discussion on the amended motion? All in favor, say aye.
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 And then we will go back, I guess, to vote on the motion as amended. Any further discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And minutes are approved. Thank you. Appearances, we have two appearances actually tonight. The first one will be a proclamation recognizing October 15th as White Cane Safety Day. So I'll read the proclamation, and then we have a couple of women who are here to accept it. So, proclamation, whereas on October 6, 1964, the United States Congress designated October 15th of each year as White Cane Safety Day, and whereas blindness and severe visual impairment affect approximately 109,000 Wisconsin residents, and whereas the majority of these persons use travel aids such as a white cane or a service animal to get around public streets and sidewalks and places of public accommodation, and whereas these travel aids are universally recognized as symbols representing vision loss, and whereas Wisconsin's white cane law requires that motorists come to a full stop before approaching closer than 10 feet to a pedestrian who is using a white cane or service animal, and whereas greater awareness of the white cane law leads to safer, more attentive driving in general, enhancing the safety of all pedestrians, including children, elders, and people with disabilities, and whereas communities have the opportunity to implement many proven features to enhance the safety of all pedestrians, including sidewalks, accessible pedestrian signals, and curb ramps. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Mary Kay O'Connor, on behalf of the residents of the City of Monona, do hereby proclaim Sunday, October 15, 2023, as White Cane Safety Day in the City of Monona, and also acknowledge the importance of pedestrian safety year-round. Signed in the City of Monona, Dane County, Wisconsin, this second day of October, 2023, Mary Kay O'Connor, Mayor. And we have two representatives from the Wisconsin Council of the Blind, is that correct?
That is fine.
Okay. Denise and Heather who are here to accept the proclamation, and I think they'd like to say a few words.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Mayor O'Connor and City Council members. We are so delighted to be here to accept the proclamation this evening, and congratulations. This is Monona's first White Cane Safety Day proclamation, so you are all part of making history tonight. I'm Denise Jess, the Executive Director with the Wisconsin Council of the Blind and Visually Impaired, resident of Madison, just across the lake, and my colleague Heather Buggs is with me tonight, and she is a Monona City resident. Our mission at the Wisconsin Council of the Blind and Visually Impaired is to promote the dignity and empowerment of all Wisconsinites living with vision loss through advocacy, education, and vision rehabilitation services. Our fastest growing population of people with vision loss are older adults who are experiencing sight loss through macular degeneration, glaucoma, and retinopathy due to diabetes. So many of our residents throughout Dane County will be touched by vision loss either directly or through a family member, particularly as folks age. So the advocacy work that we do on pedestrian safety is really critical because we are non-drivers. So we get from place to place either by walking, by getting a ride, by using public transit, or any combination thereof. So we love to use this time to reach out to municipalities across the state and invite you to partner with us in creating safe communities for all. And I want to turn to Heather because she has firsthand experience of what it's like to navigate through Monona to share with you a little bit about what makes this a great place for her to live and some of the places that she hopes where you might consider.
Hello everyone. As Denise said, my name is Heather. I am fairly new to Monona. I just bought a house a little over a year ago. I work at the Wisconsin Council of the Blind and Visually Impaired, as Denise noted, and I've lived with vision loss since birth. I really appreciate all the sidewalks on Monona Drive, Nichols Road, and Dean Avenue. As I walk along these sidewalks, it helps me to feel safe at a safe distance from the traffic, and typically I have a clear path ahead of me. These sidewalks are great for all pedestrians, including myself. I find that there are improvements in Monona that could be made on my street, St. Teresa Terrace. I understand that it is a small street, and at the same time there is a lot of traffic through school buses and delivery vehicles. On my street there are a lot of ruts and cracks, and I have twisted my ankle a few times with some of those ruts. I also appreciate, as I said, the sidewalks on Monona Drive. I do know that some of the cracks on that sidewalk, some of those sidewalks are really big as a small step. I do know that my cane does help me to find those cracks, but I do not feel like I can walk at a normal walking pace. I do hope that Monona can have the Metro Transit sometime soon. At this time, I have to walk with my family to a location that's at least 5 blocks away from our home. This would help us immensely due to sometimes it can be hard to walk that 5 blocks in inclement weather, and I found this last winter on Monona Drive between Dean Avenue and St. Teresa Terrace that sometimes that part of the sidewalk was not shoveled or not shoveled very well. Thank you so much for listening tonight.
Thanks, Heather. So we always want to be a resource for all of you, so please reach out. You can visit our website at wcblind.org. If you visit the White Cane Safety Day page, you'll find a list of municipalities around the state that have also declared White Cane Safety Day proclamations. There's a White Cane Safety Day toolkit there, and there's a one-pager on pedestrian features that are well research-based, that really make a difference for safety and quality of life for people with vision loss, but also any pedestrians. So really invite you to take a look at the page, and then if you experience vision loss yourself or have family members or people that you love that are experiencing vision loss, what we always say is don't wait until it gets really bad. When you start noticing that it's happening, reach out to us, because there are so many amazing blindness skills that we can support you in learning to be able to maintain that high quality of life that we all deserve. So thank you so much for your time tonight. We are most grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And where do you want us to turn and face?
Should we,
What do you?
Leah, where would you like us
Yeah.
to turn?
Just tell us what to do, Leah. And you want us to turn the proclamation towards you? Sure. Okay.
It's a seal on it, might as well be there. That's right.
There we go.
There we go.
Awesome. Thank you. Wonderful. And Leah, do you might have a folder that I can put this in so I don't crunch it?
Nope, we got one here.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
It's 2 saves.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you too.
Lovely to meet you. Thank you.
Can someone help her find her purse?
With the carpet, beautifully. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming. And just to update you on, Heather did reach out to me with her concerns a week or two ago, and I told her that we're going to be making a decision about the Metro proposal sometime soon, and did forward her email to Dan Stefani, and he and Jeff are checking into the concerns with St. Teresa Terrace and the sidewalk, because we do periodically do sidewalk repairs and leveling and that kind of thing. So he'll be getting back to us, I'm sure, about that. So. Good. All right. We have one more appearance. That is Devin Renner to speak about tourism. Devin, if you'd like to go to the mic, you may have 3 minutes to speak about it.
Okay, if I can have a moment just to set my timer on the show. Okay, my name is Devin Renner. I live at 1114 Birch Haven Circle here in Monona. A few weeks ago, through the Monona Community Media, I was reviewing and watching the Tourism Commission meeting and watching the approvals that were done. And I noticed a lot of things that were being approved that didn't seem to necessarily qualify for approval. So I'm going to be a little bold and assume that most of you up there, if you don't know me, you at least know who I am. So saving the rehash of my resume, suffice it to say I do have a good understanding of tourism laws in the state of Wisconsin. But just to kind of give a nutshell version of that, room tax collected according to Wisconsin Statute 66.615 must be spent on tourism promotion and tourism development, which is then defined as things that are significantly used by transient tourists or reasonably likely to generate paid overnight stays. And what you can do to generate those stays is marketing projects, including advertising, media buys, creation and distribution of printed or electronic promotional tourist materials, or efforts to recruit conventions, sporting events, or motor coach groups, transient tourist informational services, or tangible municipal developments, including a convention center. So reviewing the documentation from the Wisconsin Hotel and Lodging Association, they seem to agree with that assessment. So reviewing the applications and the applications that were approved just for this year alone, for 2023, we have a total of $267,000, a little more than that, that was approved that does not meet that definition or those qualifications. Of that $267,000, $93,504.64 was actually applied to outside groups' salaries. Cannot use it that way. Of that group, the $93,000, $15,350 was actually applied directly to groups that Andy Kitzlar sits on the board of. So I reached out to Andy on September 12th and said that I needed to speak to the Tourism Commission. He told me that there was no business in front of the Tourism Commission There were no meetings scheduled, and that if I wanted to, the only way that would be possible would be for me to apply for a grant. That is absolute nonsense. I let him know that I needed to speak with the Tourism Commission, and I did not get a response. I met with Mayor O'Connor and Alder Rademacher and gave them an update on this, but I wanted to share this with the City Council at large. I would say it may make sense to get in front of this. I think if the DOR or the State Attorney's Office were to come across some of these numbers, they would have significant questions. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Devin. All right. Moving on, there is no public hearing, there is no consent agenda. Council action items, item 1A, under unfinished business, consideration of resolution 23-9-2642, directing staff to negotiate a contract with Bray Architects for civic facility architecture and design services. And this was put forth by the Ad hoc Public Safety Building Committee. Neil, do you want to?
Absolutely, Mayor.
Give an
Just a
introduction to
brief
this.
update on that. I've been working with Attorney Cole and with Bray Architects on finalizing the details of said contract, which will be coming back to this body for formal approval. We have had essentially, starting with the standard AIA contract format that most projects are using. I believe Attorney Cole has his standard response to the standard contract. So we are kind of working through that process at this point. So we're just kind of verifying, authorizing staff to finish that process. And the contract will be coming back to council for final review.
So Matt Wolfert from Bray was here last time. He unfortunately is traveling and is in the area.
And it does
right
not
now.
appear that he's available online.
He
but-
wasn't sure if he'd be able to appear tonight. I know since the last meeting, we did send you a link to the interview process, and I know Teresa and Brian Holmquist were both there for it. And you have their proposal, and we had some other documentation with their original, the original proposal and a few other things that we had shared with you last time. So if this is asking for your permission to go ahead and negotiate this contract, if anybody has any questions, we can answer.
Be happy to take those forward.
Right.
Absolutely.
I only have
Teresa?
a comment. When the representative from Bray was here at the last council meeting, I think he just kept it intentionally very short, perhaps shorter than some of us thought he may present. Perhaps, assuming that the rest of us would have already watched that video. If you haven't had a chance, please do. It's very impressive. But they really knocked it out of the park.
And Neil has checked references also of other communities who they've done a variety of work for. So any other, Doug?
Did we want to get a motion? We don't have a
Oh,
motion yet. right?
sorry,
Oh,
yes.
sorry.
I'll move approval.
Okay. Is
I did
Patrick
have
second?
I guess a question, how many, I don't remember now, how many firms the committee either interviewed or went through? If you could talk about that. And my understanding is that Bray was far and away the preferred candidate.
Yep, just briefly, I believe we had 9 proposals originally submitted, or we actually had 10. So a very good response to a project, certainly, obviously, a very competitive project, certainly a lot of firms interested in a project of this size. So we were very pleased to receive very qualified, I believe, proposals from that. The committee then essentially whittled that down to 4 for interviews.
We had a rubric that we gave them to use.
Yep, they've scored them on several categories in terms of the proposal as well as the interview, selecting them for that one. It was essentially, I guess, it was interesting, in fact, that I guess I could say that in terms of the 4 that were selected, Bray being one of them, Bray actually improved their overall score, while the other 3 firms kind of fell back a little. So it was interesting in terms of how that ended up working out. And then certainly, I think, Mr. Wolfert's presentation was very pointed and not a lot of fluff, I guess. Was very direct in his presentation. Has been available for questions and has been responsive to questions up to this point. So, and again, references have come back very positive at this point, so.
And as I think most of you know, if not all of you, Bray was the original firm who did the long-range facility study here 11 or 12 years ago. They also did the updated study with the ad hoc committee that I appointed when I first became mayor. So they are familiar with our needs and
Familiar, and
everything,
yet they
so.
didn't seem to take that for granted, which
Yeah.
I really appreciated.
I would agree, Alder. That was-
They did not show up with any assumptions of already having anything tightened or locked down. It was really well done.
Alder Bernstein?
Yeah, I sat in on the second round of interviews, and that was the one where everyone kind of picked their top choices. And Bray was number one, unanimous.
Yeah.
So there wasn't, that really struck me. And I hadn't seen Bray's interview, but just the fact that everyone felt the same about it really meant a lot.
And we had, our ad hoc committee had people with a lot of different types of expertise, both public safety and staff in the administrative wing, as well as residents with building and project management experience and sustainability experience.
And Mayor, I will certainly add some of the tweaks that we're looking at doing to the standard contract that Attorney Cole is working on, kind of address some of the, if there were actual concerns we could say about the firm or their proposal, we are kind of addressing and incorporating that language into the contract to help us ensure that we get the service level that we are looking for, so.
And it,
Were
go ahead.
were you done, Rick?
Yeah.
Were they in line in terms of cost with the other applicants?
Yeah.
They were very, very much kind of, I would say, the middle of the more affordable. In fact, there were a couple of them that were pretty far down the line. One of them that was extremely, unbelievable in terms of its price. It would be in change orders from day one, probably just was the
Yeah.
feeling of the committee.
No.
So they kind of very grouped into a reasonable range in the middle, and Bray was right in the middle of that pack.
And then last question, will the details, like how many meetings and that kind of, and the actual, whatever the final number is, that we'll be getting that back, that will come to us?
As part of the contract, that which be identified, and I think what they will do is certainly in terms of that one particularly, Alder, will be, I think they have a standard every other week, like group team meeting, project team meeting.
Right.
And I believe those are, if it goes a year and a half or it goes 2 years, I think that is included. They would not come back to us, my current understanding is they would not come back to us for a change order because there's additional meetings required. I think that's included in their price.
And public meetings also need to be like kind of more separate, maybe deserve separate consideration, like how many times, are they going to come out and do presentations or?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what we'll do is we'll probably be tying those into various levels of design stage. Usually look at like 30, 60, 90% of how far along they are in the design. Obviously, we definitely will be doing that simply as a part of our referendum efforts as well. So that's kind of one further additional item that they'll have in their contract in terms of providing support to the referendum effort as well.
And they have been involved in a lot of referendums themselves as well. But we're definitely relying on them to provide drawings and that kind of thing. And,
Yeah.
Rick?
I'm looking at the preliminary schedule in the brochure that you added, and we're getting a late start compared to that.
Right.
But we still want to complete things in time for the referendum, right? So this is going to crunch our schedule a little bit.
Right, at this time, we're most likely looking at the fall
Yeah.
for the referendum.
Yeah.
Simply because
April.
we need to have the architect have enough information to be able to do the conceptual
Right.
design.
So
So that has, so many of the things that you guys will be talking about tonight and in future budget meetings will have a direct impact on what that building looks like.
And that's
So-
what the communications firm we're working on would prefer as well as the
Yeah.
fall, next November referendum. So, and it really doesn't matter because in either case it wouldn't, I guess it would matter in terms of how quickly the advanced design process would proceed, but in terms of our financing and everything, we'd just
Yeah.
be going through the budget process at that point anyway.
But, I mean, still, if we're looking at a May completion, that's still going to be tight for a November referendum. I mean, the
Yeah, certainly in
clock is
terms of-
short.
Yeah, and that will be kind of be working in obviously the selection of, once getting the full design work and everything in, but we're actually looking at us, getting the construction manager on as well to help us monitor the design process as well as the construction process. And so, there's absolutely a lot of work that will need to be done. It's going to be probably a focus of staff once this is in motion. We're going to be spending a lot of time on this.
And we are only doing the step 1 piece of this now. The step 2 wouldn't happen until, in theory, the referendum passes.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, do we need a roll call for this? No. Okay, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next item, consideration of ordinance 9-23-770, amending section 473-4E of the Code of Ordinances regarding land divisions put forth by the Plan Commission and the Public Works Committee. Is there a motion to approve this?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Mr.
Thank you.
Plowman.
Good evening, everybody. So as mentioned, this is a proposed revision to Chapter 473 of the Land Division section of the city's ordinance. This was originally requested by the city's Plan Commission and was really to sort of clarify and clean up some of the language here in 473-4E, the access to streets requirement. A lot of this was from exceptions that were coming before the Plan Commission that were requesting this. And it was really a way to clean this up and sort of be a little bit more specific towards Monona itself. So this was reviewed by Attorney Cole and also came through Plan Commission for review and subsequently went to Public Works Committee twice as well. Both bodies recommended approval, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Anyone have any questions? Alder Wood.
So certainly understand the desire to get away from the 60 foot of lot frontage requirement. I guess I'm curious about why add a specific 32 feet in width face-to-face requirement rather than just say, a dedicated street.
Mm-hmm. So I think the intent here, and I would suggest the original intent of the ordinance is to make sure that the streets that service the new lot would be adequately sized for that. So I did, as this number was being developed, speak with the Public Works Director, and there was a little discussion in terms of that with how you measure it face to face and sort of including curb and gutter and things like that. But the intent was that this is a reasonable number, that certainly there could be exceptions, and there can still be exceptions requested as this is currently written. But this was seen to be a reasonable amount should there be a new road being constructed, which would be unlikely. But it's more likely that a majority of the city streets should comply with this standard.
And if they didn't, we wouldn't be able to do the land division.
They would be able to request an exception from the Plan Commission. Yeah.
I actually had thought that maybe when I first saw this on the agenda, I thought it might have been asking so that staff could do some more of the approvals.
It's definitely, there's one currently that I think would be a good example of that, that I think Alder DePool is aware of from Plan Commission from last week. I'll certainly be working with City Attorney in terms of what requirements we have from sort of a state statutes perspective, what review needs to take place and how much of that could be seen by staff. But as more of these are coming through sort of for more single-family residential examples, the sort of review process does seem a little extensive with that. So.
Yeah, great, thanks.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I guess I'm just, would like City Planner Plowman to maybe the exact same part of the document, letter E, with the red markup. Is there a different way that you could say that? So the way I'm interpreting this is that if you have a lot and you wish to divide the lot, you can only do so if the smaller now divided pieces are 32 feet. If the pieces go up against a street and the street is 32 feet wide, and the width of each lot is 60 feet wide. That's what I'm not.
No, so the as written, the sort of intent of this is, especially this, it's the access to streets portion. So it's sort of considering the infrastructure that would be adjacent to the site. So there's two components. There's the right-of-way width, which as proposed, and this would not be. This is more of a clarification point. Would remain at 60 feet, 60, within that to have a 32-foot street as well. So that 60 feet is pretty typical, kind of from as the city was platted. That's pretty standard. And of course, the difference there, the 28 feet difference, could include sidewalks, terrace, and things like that as well. So really, it's making sure that this isn't necessarily served by, say, being dramatic, but sort of an alley or something like that, but rather that this is serviced by a full city street as intended, as would be spec'd for a new city street.
So the only thing about the ordinance that's really changing is what type of a street this is happening on. This is happening on a fairly major street.
I would say so. I would say
everything else stays the same.
yes.
Yeah,
I would say sort of the clarification here is the existing just says dedicated street 60 feet in width.
Correct.
Didn't necessarily specify right-of-way versus roadway. So a 60-foot street would be very significant, very large. So really sort of specifying the two there, I think meets a lot more goals in terms of, what that cross-section of the street may look like, providing for sidewalks and things like that, and is more appropriate for the city as well.
Anyone else? Bill?
If I could, Mayor, the other thing, Teresa, was that the language as previously written was read by some to require not the width of the street, but the frontage of the
That's my
access.
original,
Yeah.
that's how I originally
Could read it
thought
that way.
it. And
Right.
then, yeah.
Right, and so the intent was to say your driveway doesn't have to be 60 feet wide, but the driveway has to connect to a street that's at least 32 feet wide with a right-of-way at least 60 feet wide.
Right of way meaning from the curb
No,
of
no.
the street.
So the 32 feet would be the paved
The
portion
street that I drive
of
on.
the street,
Yeah.
right. The right-of-way is the part of the real estate that the city possesses.
Correct.
So like, for instance, on most of our roads, we have curb-to-curb street,
Yeah.
then we have a grassy terrace,
Yeah.
then we have sidewalks.
Mm-hmm.
The right-of-way includes both sidewalks and both terraces. That would be the 60 feet. The 32 feet would just be the curb-to-curb, if that makes sense.
The total of
So-
the two
so-
would be 60, right? The
Correct.
street
Yeah.
and the
Yep.
sidewalk.
So roughly 13,
And
14
sometimes
feet on
more.
either side of
Yeah.
the 32-foot street.
Yes.
Okay.
Kind of 30,
Yeah. Right.
but it's got a 60-foot right.
I think there's some areas on Winnequa where the right-of-way is 60 feet. on a
Yeah.
couple
Oh,
of
yeah.
those
Yeah.
properties, yeah.
So is the revision, as Attorney Cole said, is it really just to clarify past misunderstandings?
I would say so, and I believe from Plan Commission members that this section of the ordinance was pretty generic.
confusing, okay.
A little confusing, absolutely, and sort of generic in the past, that I think it was sort of an off-the-shelf
Okay.
ordinance. But this, I think, is a little more appropriate for the city, for the streets we have, and probably, if there were anywhere we were constructing, that probably we'd look to construct as well.
Thank you.
If there aren't any other questions, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Knocking them
Thank you,
down.
Doug. Moving on to new business. Item 2A, consideration of resolution 23-10-2643, approving the 2024 through 2028 capital improvements program and 2024 capital borrowing. This is my capital budget proposal. We all were at the meetings, most of us, the committee of the whole meetings recently. You can also watch them on YouTube. This is the first read, so if anyone has questions, we do have two amendments. Do you want to discuss the amendments first, Mark? And then staff is here if you have any,
Yeah,
any of you have any questions.
Sure. There's two amendments. There's one, amendment number one is amendment to move the sewer lining street project to the 2025 budget. So based on where the 20 Watha Street project reconstruction project was moved from 24 to 25, and I did not move the sewer lining street project. This 85,000 was related to that project, so I didn't move it. So this is just move it to match up with the 20 Watha project. So it will happen, just to be in 25 to go with the 20 Watha project. The other one is this park truck replacement. I'm not sure how I screwed this one up. We originally had 65, and then I changed it to 50. So, but originally it's supposed to be for 65 for this park truck replacement. That was the original request. Actually put 50 in there. So this is just to put it to what was actually originally requested by the Parks Board, and to be what was requested by Jake and Missy.
Any questions about the amendments or questions for staff about any of the other budget items? This will be coming back for final approval at the first meeting in November, actually. And you can certainly submit other amendments. Rick?
I'm wondering if it's possible to see a list of things that were pulled from the capital budget?
It's in there. It's in the budget.
It is? Okay.
Right behind the.
One of the
okay.
first pages, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Got it.
Alder Wood, did you have a question?
Yeah, a question, I think for Mark. The Aldo Leopold repaving, that's the wrong one, was in the budget this year,
Yeah.
and it's in there again, so is that,
So it has not been done yet. We're still working out the details of who's paying for it. But also, maybe we can explain a little bit better. We sat down with all the Leopold and figured out exactly what the kind of plan is going to look like. So we're starting to get good cost numbers, so we can start negotiating with the other. So it's all the Leopolds, Valerian, and I believe, I don't know what the name is in the moment.
It's the senior housing.
Yeah.
Meadows and Hills.
It's right at the
Hills, yeah.
entrance to
So
the
all four are impacted by this. So it's just been delayed.
And Aldo actually has a couple of other smaller projects they want to add to it, right, that they'll pay for.
So yeah, so part of what makes sense is, Neil and Dan have walked with Aldo, what they kind of want, and so what we're going to do is they would bid as one project, and those portions alone, we pay for it, and then they'd reimburse us for it. We wouldn't borrow for it.
so, but the money wasn't carried over?
I believe I carried over the majority of it.
We had 80,000 in geo bonds last year and 70,000 this year,
Oh, yeah.
and I don't see any other.
Yeah, that's supposed to be carried. I have the wrong. Yeah, so yeah, you're correct. Oh. Yeah. No, I believe that's.
It's going to cost more, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think we just put in the borrowing number, not the over. Which I can update that. We did not put what was carried over in there. So that's additional what was borrowed last year.
Okay.
Is what that is.
Dan, did you?
Yes, Mayor. My capital request sheet has amount approved in 2023 as $245,000. We're requesting to add $70,000 additional to that due to materials pricing and inflation, things of that nature until the contracts can be amended. So we do have 245 already approved.
Okay.
Did you have other questions, Doug?
Yeah, I guess for Dan, I saw in the items that were taken out of the capital budget, there was obviously Tanya Watha being delayed a year, and also mill and overlay on Midland and Bridge Road being delayed. And I know this year we had a little bit less in the overall bridge and street maintenance repair resurfacing line. That's back up to 300. But I guess my overarching concern is, are we doing enough to stay, so that we're not falling behind, because we have, about 32 miles or so of roads. That doesn't change. If we don't spend the money to maintain them now, it gets more expensive to do it later. So if you could just comment sort of on where we are.
So I'll be doing the road rating within the next few weeks before the majority of the leaves fall. From that list, I'll be determining the roads for next year, but it's going to be mill and overlay heavy. We've done a lot of chip sealing the past 2 years, and the chip sealing process is a little cheaper process than the microsurfacing, so we've gotten more bang for the buck. The quality of the product is really good as well, especially with the fog sealing on top of it. So we will be focusing on mill and overlay next year. Bumping the allocation back up to $300,000. We should get a good chunk of mill and overlay done with that. As far as the overall condition of city streets, I do believe they're looking good. We're not falling behind, but we have to continue to keep that money up there if we can, if our budgets can handle that. But so far, I think we're still on track.
All right, good, thank you.
And Dan, I don't know if you want to address why you suggested that we could wait a year on Tony Wafa?
Team player, helping out with the budget. I know we have restrictions with our borrowing. It's probably the biggest bang for the buck that we can help with the capital budget. And, bumping it back 1 year, we should still be fine. In addition to that, the pipe pricing has skyrocketed the past few years. And I guess some of us are thinking that maybe bumping it back a year, some of those material costs will come back down to a normal level. In the meantime, we'll monitor the roadway. We'll make our small section patching as we have in the past. But, it's our public works effort to help with the budget restrictions. But also it's hoping that the material pricing comes back down to a normal level. Because this road project, we're probably looking at almost 30% increase just due to inflationary measures since COVID. And the supply chain interruptions that we've experienced the past few years have sent those prices higher than normal. So we're hoping those come back down in time for 2025.
I think we originally had over $6 million, or just about 6 in requests, and so we had to cut about half of the requests to get us down to our goal. Any other questions? Okay, if there are none, this will be back at the first meeting in November for a final vote. So feel free, if you have more amendments or have any other questions, contact any of the staff or Mark or Neil or me. I'm happy to answer.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, staff, for coming. And okay, moving on. Convene in closed session under Wisconsin Statute Section 19.85, paren 1, paren G, conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved, and this involves a lawsuit, American Family Insurance versus the City of Monona. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
I'll second.
Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alder Rademacher,
Yes.
Alder Bernstein,
Here.
Alder DePula, Alder Wood.
Aye.
We are in closed session. Relative, yes. We may choose, maybe. Yeah, okay. We are back in open session. Moving on, reports of committees, commissions, et cetera, et cetera. First of all, does anybody have any updates or discussion on diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts? Neil? Sure.
Pleased to report that I have been named to the Boys and Girls Club Dane County Board of Directors. So I'll also be sitting on their finance committee, which will be an interesting challenge, trying to corral Mr. Johnson's energy and enthusiasm to charge ahead in terms of keeping track of the documentation we need to do. But it's a really great committee and excited to be on board. I'm looking forward to getting started with that group. So watch for more information and updates from them. Also reporting, I'm 2 classes out of the 4 of the Working with Tribal Nations course I signed up with. It's been a little bit of a kind of a dark and dreary discussion in terms of kind of establishing the history, certainly with tribes in the United States, and how that has gone forward and how they've been relocated. And it's been really, really sobering to have that conversation. The course is being taught by several different tribal representatives throughout Wisconsin, and to hear really some of the things that have been happened is fairly kind of, again, a very, very sobering discussion, but it is kind of establishing how then some of the legislation has been established, like treaties, how they're treated in our own Constitution, both at the state and federal level. So we're progressing into how we deal with them as a legal entity at this point, and then kind of moving forward. They have had some great presentations. Again, very, very serious one on boarding schools and how Native tribes were forced into them and kids were separated, and very serious conversation. Our last one was a really great conversation, a really neat project that has been done with Feeding America, the food bank, and they actually have established a Native, basically a food box for the elders of the tribes to be delivered that are actually Native foods. So in terms of dealing things, they find out a lot of lactose intolerance among Native tribes, so that's been eliminated, and actually using producers from a variety of tribes throughout Wisconsin, Minnesota, and the Midwest. So it's really kind of a landmark project. So it was really neat to kind of see that firsthand. So some good, it's always some good news coming and getting in there, and hopefully 2 classes to go on that one. So looking forward to that. We also do have a request, last thing, to build kind of a round building by the Ho-Chunk out on San Damiano to use for like a temporary structure to be using for educational purposes. So we're starting with the kind of the standard use agreement Bill's shared with me, one that usually works. We're going to try to reach Mr. Brockenbush and sit down with him and have a conversation of really what season are they going to put it up, take it down, and get some details on exactly what they're thinking. But it's an exciting opportunity. I think it'd be a great fit for. They
want to do some Ho-Chunk language classes, right?
Right. Yeah, they have very specific coursework that they're looking to actually provide as part of this. They want it to be open. They want people to be able to come in and experience it. And so hopefully a very great project. Looking forward to getting that moving forward.
When might this happen?
As fast as, it depends on Mr. Quackenbush. I don't know when his schedule is. Obviously, it's October now, so I'm not sure if they're looking to get something up now.
He's
or
a busy guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So hopefully in the spring, but we'll have to haven't talked the timetable with him yet.
Is it, and kind of in my mind, I'm envisioning like a yurt. Is that what you're?
I think so. They provided an illustration. He's given me some dimensions, at least so we know physically how it would sit, and just kind of decide exactly where would be the best location. Obviously the cities need to look at things like security for that event. If there's we have all those kind of details that I'm thinking can happen. But I think it's a really exciting opportunity. So we're looking forward to getting that in place with Ho-Chunk. So
thank you for attending that class. It sounds so fascinating and heartbreaking at the same time.
I would have had to have a stiff drink if I wasn't on work hours. That first class, it was really startling. I mean, always kind of have an idea of how awful that was, but really hearing from folks who had their own family members and just hearing the personal stories of that it was again, very sobering is the best word I can use. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Anyone else? DEI efforts. Otherwise, we'll move on to sustainability.
Yeah, I have something. So if you haven't checked it out yet, on Monona Go, you can catch a fabulous new addition to WVMO. There's a woman in Monona, Shalena Zarate, who is with me on the DEIB committee, and she's done some really great stuff with community media. The program Conectados is a bilingual experience where she interviews people who are native Spanish speakers about, for example, Mexican Independence Day was one of the things that she spoke about with two of the guests that were in the studio with her over at the high schools where it was filmed. So you can listen and watch to it, or both, however you prefer. Her first interview was with a woman who works at the high school, Jade Sachs, and Jade which is a resource officer who works with families who do not have English as their first language. And at one point in the interview, Jade became a little emotional. I found myself doing the same as I was listening to it, and it's just, it really, like Neil was saying, it's just, you just don't realize how much struggle there is in the world. And I'm so happy that we're taking some steps to try to reach out and change that.
And Jade was on our original DEI committee.
Yes, correct. Mm-hmm. And then I guess the next thing I would say is that I'm just really looking forward to our new appointment to our Landmarks Committee that we'll talk about later tonight. Yeah. So.
Anyone else? Anything about sustainability?
I guess just I would say the same thing, just keep your leaves out of the street.
That is, just to echo that, that is, certain Public Works is getting ready to
That is the
really
number,
roll out
yeah.
the signs, their programs, so yeah,
Yeah.
residents should be.
It's like the
watching.
number
They'll
one
be-
thing we can
Yeah.
do. Just
They'll be
get your
seeing a lot of
leaves.
that.
Yeah. Just,
And I did mention it on
You
my
did. I
lowdown
heard it.
last
I
week,
heard it.
so, yeah. Anyone else? Sustainability? Okay, well then we will move to committee reports. Alder Bernstein.
Most of my committees didn't meet except for library, and they're just going through the operating budget right now. It's moving along. The other thing is, I guess with sustainability, I took one of the Eco Action Tuesday tours of the Second Harvest Food Bank, which is a member of Feeding America. And the one thing that sticks in my mind is that for $10 they can supply 25 meals. And if I could do that, imagine what the home budget would be. So that's amazing. So I'm going to make a good donation to them, and I would recommend anybody else who's interested that they're more than entitled to your support. It's an amazing facility, very up to date. It's really grown beyond anything I would have thought they had. So it's a very powerful organization that works throughout Southwest Wisconsin, like 10 different counties. And they're doing a lot of good work. So that's my report.
All right, Alder Rademacher.
I'll have more in the next meeting. We've got some upcoming meetings, DEIB, sustainability, landmarks. We have not met since the last city council meeting. I did receive some interesting statistics about something going on in community media that just makes me really proud. One of our members did some analysis on the newsletter. I mentioned a little bit about this last week. She had some fleshed out a little more details here this time around. She talked about how a year ago today, the My Monona e-newsletter had 853 subscribers, and at this time, 1 year later, we have 985, so 15.4% increase, really proud. The click rate average for the last 12 months has increased from 72%, where it started, which is incredible, to 75%. You can even, it's a 3% increase, really impressive. She talks often about how a 20% click rate is really something to strive for, and yet here we are at 75. January has the lowest open rate, which makes sense. July and December also has the least clicks because of the holidays, which is not surprising. And the number 1 and 2 articles that received the most clicks in the past 12 months were the bus transit survey and the input meeting about San Damiano, which makes sense, right? So
And you're all free to submit an article
Yes,
if you'd like about
absolutely.
anything your committee's
Please
doing.
do.
I know, I always try to get a couple
Yeah.
things in there.
Yeah, I mean, I know that sometimes people bring up that, it'd be nice if every alder had their own newsletter, and I'm like, I would really just prefer that we all use the vehicles that we have, and we all just get behind this one, and let's just use it. I think it's a fabulous vehicle.
And we're going to try to do more substantive things
Yeah.
in each issue, or especially given that my personal opinion is we are not getting much of any coverage by the Community Herald,
Yeah.
and certainly nothing by the State Journal. So I think this is a really
Yeah.
a major way for us to get the word out about what's going on around the city.
The odd thing about the Herald too is that they'll occasionally talk about something that comes before the council, then they don't follow up about what happened.
Yeah.
So it'll be like, the council weighs blah, 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 and there's no information about what we actually did after this.
Yeah, I'm actually meeting their newest reporter for coffee tomorrow. We'll see if he stays, because I had an appointment with the previous news reporter like 6 weeks ago, and she apparently moved on, so.
That's why she never did that.
Right, yeah, same.
It was not personal.
Initial outreach, and
That's right.
then, yeah.
No.
Is it something I said?
I think everyone must have gotten
Okay.
an email from her, and,
Oh,
yeah,
So I
so
think we understand that this individual is probably covering,
yeah.
a lot.
I mean,
Yeah, they're
I've heard
so
25,
overworked.
40 community, I mean, a ridiculous number
It's
for
yeah.
one human being to
It
try
really
to
is.
cover if they're
Yeah.
actually doing it, so.
Burnout rate.
So I think if we have some other venues for getting the word out,
Yeah.
if you have some good articles, please, please submit them. Alder Wood.
CDA had a good discussion last week on creating TIF 10, and specifically, and also potentially on creating more TIF districts. In the draft of the plan, Gary Becker, the consultant, included a provision for an affordable housing and blight elimination initiative fund, and also for a child care daycare provider initiative. The idea being, if we put these items in the plans, then we would be able to pursue those. If we don't put them in the plan, then it's very difficult to use TIF money to do it. So that was interesting. License review met September 12th, and not too surprisingly, Eastside Club, Tasting Room, and Breakwater all applied for more amplified device permits in response to the change in the ordinance. All, I think, are pretty close to their max now, so see how that works the rest of the year. Parks Board did not meet. MPO is meeting on Wednesday, and it looks like a bunch of wonky federal highway regulation kind of stuff. So,
Really fascinating, huh?
yeah, I'll report back.
If you're ever seen again.
That's all.
Okay. Alder DePula.
Public Works meeting on Wednesday. We're touring the Public Works facility. Got a CSM issue on the agenda, which is something that we've all met about. Well, not all, but we've been meeting with the administrator and the mayor and others regarding a property that has a legacy of. Basically, there's a bunch of properties in Monona that have archaic plat lines through them that make it very difficult when people come before the city to do any sort of remodeling. And then they're required to do a CSM, go through all this trouble in order to get something that should have been, in this case, taken care of in 1936. Yeah. So we're trying to clean that up a little bit. And so that'll be on the agenda that CSM will be on the agenda on this coming Wednesday. And Parks did not meet, and that's all I had.
All right. City Attorney Cole. City Clerk.
No report.
Yeah. No report. The only thing I have is that the Fall Festival is October 14th. So I think if you go to the Parks page, they'll have more details. They usually have a lot going on there. My only remaining item is Jean Delcourt to the Landmarks Commission, effective immediately through April 2026. We have had 2 openings on that committee for quite a while, and now we're down to 1. Jean didn't really address much in his application, but he is a history, social studies teacher at MG21. He also led the building of the canoe that was raffled off, the Native American canoe that was raffled off at the fundraiser for San Damiano, and I think they've actually built 2 canoes, and I think he told me they're working on another one. He's also very involved in planning for the chainsaw competition next summer. He's on the planning committee, and I know he's been very involved in that. And he is also a Native American, although he's not a member of the Ho-Chunk tribe, but he has a lot of connections to Ho-Chunk. He worked with Harry Whitehorse. Harry taught him how to sculpt with a chainsaw. So we've been looking, we had someone with a Native American background on Landmarks a few years ago, because we have these mounds and things, we want to be sure we're handling the right way. So I'm really happy, I was really happy to see Jean's application, and I think it'd be a good addition. So is there a motion to approve the appointment?
I move to approve the appointment.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved. Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nay.